Hi, my name's Brianna here at Books and Briars. Today I've come to do the book sacrifice tag. This tag was originally created by Ariel Bissett, video below, and I was tagged by Teddy A. So thank you so much, Teddy. I'm really excited. This is my first tag video, so yay! Teddy's video is also in the description. So this tag consists of 4 scenarios in which horrible things are happening, and the only way to save myself is to somehow destroy a book. So let's get started. But before we do, I just need to make clear that these 4 books are books that I personally did not enjoy. That does not mean that other people will not enjoy them. And if you really like them, tell me in the description, why did you like it? And maybe you can convince me that it's not actually such a bad book. I will also say that for most of these books, I don't hate it. It's not really for me. So, scenario number 1. Let's start this off with a zombie apocalypse. Let's say you're in a bookstore, just browsing, when BAM! Zombie attack. An announcement comes over the PA system that the military has discovered that the zombies' only weakness is overhyped books. What book do you run to that everyone... Let's start this off. Let's start this off with the zombie apocalypse. Let's say you're in a bookstore, just browsing, when BAM! Zombie attack. An announcement comes over the PA system that the military has discovered the zombies' only weakness is overhyped books. What book that everyone else loved but you hated do you immediately run to and start chucking at the zombies, knowing that it is an overhyped book and it will destroy them? For me, that book is Across the Universe by Beth Revis. Now, I started watching BookTube last year, and this book seemed to be everywhere. So when I saw it in my used bookstore, I decided I would pick it up. I made a mistake. I thought the premise was okay, but I could not stand the characters. I could not stand the descriptions of the sci-fi. It was just not good. The whole society was basically horrible, and the plot was super predictable. So I did not enjoy this book. Also, I got about halfway into it, and there was one scene in particular that made me throw this book across the room. I hated it, and after that, it became irredeemable to me. I skipped ahead to the end of the book just to see how the plot summed itself up, and I was not surprised at all. Not one bit. It was completely predictable, and so I just returned that book to the bookstore. It was not for me. Scenario number 2. You've just left the salon with an amazing new do, and boom, torrential downpour. What sequel do you hold over your head as an umbrella? For me, that is a book that I read just recently, and that is Readin by Christina McFarlane. For me, that is a book that I read just recently, and that is Readin by Christina Farley. This is the 3rd book in the Gilded trilogy about a girl named Jae-hwa Lee, who is a Korean American. She moves back to Korea and becomes sucked into the world of Korean mythology and the Korean spirit world, where she has to fight to save not only herself and her family, but the entire nation of South Korea. And the first book was so amazing. There was so much world building, and it just felt so real, and it was brilliant. There were issues, of course, but it was a good book. And the 2nd and the 3rd book just sort of failed to live up to that. Both continued to introduce new aspects of the mythology and the spirit world. However, the 3rd book in particular just completely failed to bring that to life in the way it had in the 1st book. There were new characters, new places, new things introduced, And it was just sort of bam, 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 oh, it's over. And it wasn't fulfilling. And I got to the end of this book, which is the third book. I'm pretty sure it's a trilogy, so it's the final book. And it just sort of ended. So I would not regret that book getting completely soaked to protect myself and my hair. My lovely hair. Scenario number 3. Let's say you're in a lecture and your English teacher is going on and on about how this classic changed the world, how it revolutionized literature, and you are so sick of it that you chuck the book right at his face. Because you know what? That classic is stupid, and it is worth the tension just to show everyone how you feel. What classic did you chuck? Taking inspiration from the question, which seems to be set in a high school, I decided to choose a book that I read in high school and absolutely loathed. And that book is An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser. This book is a rather hefty book, so throwing it at someone would definitely cause injury. And I wouldn't really want to cause injury to my teachers because I generally like them. So I'd probably chuck it at the wall, maybe just towards the front of the room, maybe into a trash bin. That would get the point across just as well, I think. And I just hated this book so much. It was so long and so dull, and it follows this boy as he's growing up, trying to move from poverty into success, and doing so in a way that makes you question his sanity. He seemed to have absolutely zero empathy, and I would probably classify him as a sociopath. And he was just an irredeemable character. And at the time in high school when I was reading this, I couldn't really separate character from story, from writing. So I hated the character, therefore I hated the book. I recently had to read another book by him in a different course in my graduate studies, and while I still don't really like it, I can see the merit of Theodore Dreiser's writing. I'm just not going to read it. It's just not for me at all. So that book would get me detention. I would accept that. And for the final book, the least favorite book of life. Let's say you're hanging out at the library when, bam, global warming explodes and the world outside becomes a frozen wasteland. You're trapped, and your only chance for survival is to burn a book. Pause for a moment. Burning books is not okay. Ever. But in this scenario, what is the first book you run to? Your least favorite book of all life. What book do you not fully regret burning? For me, that is Cycler by Lauren McLaughlin. This is a young adult book about a teenage girl who, instead of having her period once a month, she turns into a boy for 4 days. Like, she is a cisgender female teenage girl, and she turns into a cisgendered male teenage boy for 4 days out of the month. And that premise has some interesting potential. It could explore gender fluidity and stereotypes, and it could just punch a hole through the whole cisgendered everything in society. And it chose not to. Instead, what this book did is it completely catered to the stereotypes. The characters were vapid, shallow, and just following whatever teenage stereotypes are supposed to do. The girl, Jill, was only concerned with her face, her clothes, and boys. And of course, she hated her male counterpart, Jack, who in turn is only concerned with his penis. That's the distinguishing quality I can remember about him. He just liked to think with his dick. They were both immature, shallow as rain puddles, and they just had absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. All of the characters were horrible, all of the scenarios were horrible, and it just failed to live up to any of my expectations. I recently learned that this book has a sequel, which makes me sad, because that means that someone decided, oh, we can publish a second one. No. Nope. No, this book's horrible. And while I still think that burning books is never okay, if it was a choice between life and death, I would burn all of them. And I would actually hope that no one ever reads them. That's just my general appeal. I hate that book so much. If you can find a redeeming quality in it, let me know, because I can't. I think it's horrendous. And I didn't realize that I had such passionate feelings about this book until I had to make this tag, and I realized that I really just want to shove all those books into the dirt and bury them for all eternity. Because it's bad, and I'm going to stop talking about it now because all this negativity is just making me really anxious. I don't like negativity. I don't like it. So, that's it for my book sacrifice tags. What books would you sacrifice if it was the end of the world or any of these scenarios? What do you think you would do? Alternatively, if you like any of these books, tell me why. Because you might change my mind. You might give me something to think about, and that's always brilliant. But for me, that's all I have to say about any of these books. Once again, thank you, Teddy, for tagging me. I will leave anyone that I tag in the description, but I think most of BookTube, unless you're new like me, has probably done this tag. So, that's all for now. See ya. But for me, until next time.